At the start of the new semester, Kuta still struggles to adjust to the atmosphere of his classroom. He is aware that if he does not join any circle or group, he will gradually become isolated, and that isolation will make everyday life at school feel awkward and uncomfortable. Even so, the classroom environment feels more bearable to him than being at home. That contrast lingers in his mind as he goes through his days at school. After classes, Natsuki approaches Kuta and invites him to spend time together after school. Natsuki is Kuta's childhood friend from kindergarten and remains the only friend who stays consistently by his side. Even now that they are both in high school, Natsuki continues to show concern for Kuta and pays close attention to how he is doing. Kuta gently turns down the invitation, explaining that he has work to take care of that day. Natsuki reacts with concern, questioning why Kuta seems so absorbed in his work lately. Kuta explains that he does not feel like returning home because one of his parents has recently remarried, and the situation makes him feel restless and uncomfortable. Natsuki acknowledges that such a change can feel unsettling and wonders whether Kuta is truly fine, since Kuta has been coming home late more often since the remarriage. From Natsuki's perspective, this pattern might also trouble Kuta's mother. Kuta agrees with that view, yet for him, staying away from home still feels more comfortable than being there. Natsuki understands his feelings and lets him know that if Kuta wants to pass the time or ease his mind, he can always talk to him. Kuta feels grateful for that support, but at the same time, he feels uneasy about relying too much on Natsuki alone. Amid all of this, Kuta finds a place where he can quietly escape after distancing himself from his home and family. That place is a family restaurant. There, he sits for hours, slowly drinking a melon soda until around 10 at night, while watching the lively atmosphere of the restaurant unfold around him. After finishing his food, he spends the rest of his time working on homework or watching videos on his phone. For Kuta, these moments become a rare kind of freedom, a time when he does not need to think about anyone else and can focus only on himself. Recently, this routine turns into a comforting habit that helps him endure his daily life. Kuta also notices that there is another student who often comes to the same restaurant, and that person is Kazumiya. On one occasion, Kazumiya is approached by another girl who brings up the fact that Kazumiya's older sister is a singer named Kyuan. The girl is a fan and wants to be introduced to Kyuan. Kazumiya refuses the request, but the girl persists and presses Kazumiya to obtain Kyuan's autograph, emphasizing her long-standing admiration since Kyuan's debut. Kazumiya grows irritated, feeling that the girl is not listening despite the clear refusal. Her frustration shows on her face, and the tension causes the girl to back away. Natsuki comments to Kuta that the girls have stepped on a figurative landmine, leaving Kuta confused at first. Natsuki then explains that Kazumiya does not like talking about her sibling, especially because she has issues with people interfering in her family matters. Kuta listens and tries to understand the situation from that perspective. Kazumiya's older sister is a singer and writer whose real name is Kazumiya Kuron, known professionally as Kyuan. She is 2 years older than Kazumiya Kahaku. Like her popular older sister, Kazumiya herself is also considered a celebrity due to her beauty. However, because of jealousy toward Kazumiya and her seemingly fortunate environment, unfounded rumors begin to spread about her. These rumors include claims that she goes out partying late at night or associates with questionable people. Despite their circulation, none of these stories have any real basis. From Kuta's point of view, this situation highlights how much people enjoy involving themselves in the private lives of others. Observing this tendency leaves a strong impression on him, and he finds it remarkable how easily rumors and interference take shape around someone's life. At the family restaurant where Kuta usually spends his time, the situation feels different from usual that day. The place is unusually crowded, and the seat Kuta normally uses is already taken by someone else. This small change immediately puts him slightly on edge as he looks for another place to sit. Without warning, Kazumiya takes a seat right beside him, which startles Kuta and makes him feel uneasy. It feels wrong to him because the two of them rarely sit this close, and the sudden proximity makes him tense. Kuta quickly convinces himself that Kazumiya probably has not noticed him at all. To avoid drawing attention, he pretends to focus on the menu, carefully scanning it as if he is deeply interested. While doing so, he notices a new item listed there, an omelette rice dish. The discovery gives him a convenient excuse to stay absorbed in the menu, and he decides that he will order it. After that, Kuta moves toward the drink bar. As he pours himself a drink, he steals a glance in Kazumiya's direction and feels a sense of relief when he sees that she is completely absorbed in a video on her phone. She appears so focused that she does not seem aware of his presence at all. Even so, curiosity quietly grows in Kuta's mind, and he wonders what kind of video has captured her attention so fully. After a short while, Kuta's omelette rice finally arrives at the table. He looks down at the plate and gets the impression that the food will be good even before tasting it. When he starts eating, the texture of the egg feels soft and gentle, and the warmth of the dish seems to ease his lingering fatigue. The flavor is balanced and comfortable, fitting naturally in his mouth without being overwhelming. As he continues eating, Kuta finds himself thinking that this restaurant truly deserves to be called the best place for him. He finishes the meal completely, feeling satisfied. When Kuta checks his phone afterward, he notices that it is already 8 in the evening. That means he still has 2 hours left before it is time to head home. He spends a little time browsing the internet, letting his thoughts drift. But his calm is suddenly broken when his phone starts ringing with a call from his mother. The unexpected call catches him off guard. As he answers, his mother asks about his whereabouts and whether he has eaten dinner. Kuta explains that he is on his way home after finishing his part-time work and that he stopped by briefly to eat because he felt hungry. During this moment, Kazumiya finally becomes aware of Kuta's presence and begins to watch him quietly from where she sits. His mother then questions why he does not eat at home, mentioning that everyone has been waiting for him. Kuta responds by reassuring her, indicating that this way is easier for him and that there is no need to worry. Throughout the call, Kazumiya continues to observe him without saying anything. Eventually, Kuta's mother understands his explanation. The call comes to an end, and Kuta puts his phone away. As he does so, he feels a sense of relief wash over him, as if a small weight has been lifted from his chest. Kazumiya suddenly addresses him and points out that Kuta seems to have family problems as well. The comment catches Kuta off guard, and for a moment he wonders whether she is really speaking to him. It quickly becomes clear that her attention is indeed directed at him and no one else. Kazumiya then explains herself, clarifying that she does not intend to eavesdrop. She mentions that after the video she is watching ends, she takes off her headphones, and that moment leads her to overhear Kuta's conversation with his mother. Kuta responds by admitting that the situation is partly his own fault, since he answers a phone call in a place like this. He then adds that his relationship with his mother is not truly bad or hostile. Kazumiya accepts that explanation without pushing further. Even so, Kuta feels unlucky and slightly embarrassed, realizing that he let something personal slip out unintentionally. Kazumiya apologizes for suddenly bringing up such an awkward topic. Kuta reassures her that it is fine, acknowledging that what she says is not wrong and that he does have unresolved issues with his mother. Kazumiya then shares that she feels something similar, explaining that she also does not get along well with her family. Shortly after saying that, she apologizes again for bringing up her own problems in this place. At that moment, Kuta becomes aware that Kazumiya is dealing with struggles that resemble his own. He tells her that she does not need to worry about it. Kazumiya replies that she cannot help feeling concerned, because she lives by a principle of not interfering in other people's problems. Kuta responds that he follows the same principle. Kazumiya questions whether that is truly the case. Kuta explains his reasoning, saying that since he cannot even solve his own problems, he does not believe he has the right to step into someone else's personal matters. Hearing this, Kazumiya laughs lightly and notes that Kuta has the exact same reasoning as she does. Kuta is surprised, especially when he notices Kazumiya smiling. She remarks that she already senses that Kuta is similar to her in that way. Kuta is then taken aback again when he realizes that Kazumiya knows his name. Kazumiya explains that of course she knows it, since they are in the same class. Hearing that, Kuta understands immediately. Kazumiya asks whether Kuta is a regular student, mentioning that she is one as well, which makes it easier for her to remember classmates. She adds that she finds it interesting how similar she and Kuta actually are. Kuta feels a bit shy at her words, but he eventually agrees with her assessment, affirming that they are indeed alike. At that moment, a waiter approaches their table carrying a serving of chocolate ice cream. Kazumiya wonders if Kuta orders dessert. Kuta explains that he orders it simply to pass the time, even though he is aware that it might be a waste of money. Kazumiya comments that she imagines spending time like this is not easy, and she considers that she might try ordering something similar next time. Kuda offers her a bite, but Kazumiya declines the offer. Kazumiya then shares her opinion that the food at this restaurant is generally good. Kuda agrees wholeheartedly, and even mentions that he wants to try everything on the menu someday. The shared thought makes both of them laugh together, easing the atmosphere between them. After that, Kuda wonders what time it is. When he checks his phone, he sees that it is already 9:30 in the evening. Realizing that it is time to leave, he understands that both of them need to head home. In the end, Kuda and Kazumiya leave the restaurant together. On the way home, Kuda mentions that he feels glad he can delay returning home like this, and Kazumiya feels the same way. As they walk together, Kazumiya offers a suggestion to Kuda. She observes that spending time by talking like this feels genuinely pleasant. For her, speaking with Kuda turns out to be more comfortable than she initially expects, and that unexpected ease brings a sense of calm to both of them. Kuda agrees with what Kazumiya says. From his perspective, it is true that they become close in a surprisingly natural way, and the time they spend together seems to pass quickly without him realizing it. Kazumiya adds that she feels she might be able to share certain things with Kuda, such as personal frustrations. Hearing that, Kuda asks what she means by that. Kazumiya explains that these frustrations include matters related to school, personal concerns, and even family issues. As she mentions family, she reacts with slight surprise herself, but still acknowledges that talking about family problems might actually be a good thing. Kazumiya then notices Kuda laughing and asks what makes him laugh. Kuda apologizes and explains that she brings up things he has never really thought about before. He adds that family problems are not something he would normally talk about with a friend. After that, Kuda asks whether they need some kind of rule for meetings like this. Kazumiya takes a moment to think, and then an idea comes to her. She proposes that their relationship should simply be about listening to each other's complaints and not going beyond that. She presents this idea to Kuda as a clear suggestion. Kuda responds that he likes the idea, especially because it fits well with the principles they both share. With that understanding, they come to a mutual decision. Afterward, Kuda asks about the video Kazumiya is watching earlier. Kazumiya explains that it is a movie. From there, the two of them continue chatting casually as they walk, and before they realize it, they arrive at Kazumiya's apartment building. Kazumiya thanks Kuda for accompanying her on the way. Kuda remarks that the time passes quickly. Kazumiya then wishes him good night, and Kuda returns the greeting. After that, Kazumiya heads into her apartment building. Just before opening the door to her place, she tells Kuda that she wants to meet him again at their usual spot after school the next day. When he arrives home, Kuda receives a message from Kazumiya thanking him for walking her back. Along with the message, she also sends the title of the film she mentioned earlier as a recommendation. Kuda replies with his thanks. As he looks at the screen, he begins to wonder whether he and Kazumiya have become fairly close enough to exchange contact information without much hesitation. For a brief moment, Kuda hopes that this situation could last forever. A faint sense of expectation surfaces in his mind, but he quickly pushes the thought away and tells himself that it should not go any further. To Kuda, he and Kazumiya simply share a common trait of not liking to go straight home. In his own words, they are nothing more than allies who happen to spend time at the same family restaurant. Even so, he feels genuinely happy to have found someone he can talk to comfortably. With that thought, Kuda steps into the house, quietly wishing that he will not let his feelings drift in an unwanted direction. As soon as he enters, the familiar awkward atmosphere greets him. His mother acknowledges his return, while his stepfather offers him a cup of coffee. Kuda declines the offer, feeling too tired and wanting to go straight to bed. His stepfather understands and encourages him to get a good rest. The exchange leaves Kuda feeling tense, and he heads up the stairs to the second floor with a long sigh. During the spring break before the new school year, Kuda's mother remarries. Her partner is Akihiro, an employee at a large company. Akihiro has a daughter who attends the same school as Kuda, though she is still in her first year. Akihiro's daughter is intelligent and athletic, standing in sharp contrast to Kuda, who feels that he has no notable achievements of his own. To Kuda, they resemble what people might call an ideal family, and that perception makes him feel as though he does not truly belong among them. Even now, he still cannot fully blend in with them. Hoping to change his mood, Kuda plans to watch the film Kazumiya recommends. When he reaches the second floor, he encounters Kotomi, his stepsister, and Akihiro's daughter. Kotomi conveys that their parents worry because Kuda comes home later than usual that day. She also mentions that she has recently heard rumors about a female student from their school who often stays out late at night. She points out that Kuda is also frequently out at night and urges him to be careful so that he does not fall into bad company. From her words, Kuda suspects that the person she is referring to is Kazumiya. Kuda expresses his gratitude to Kotomi for worrying about him. Kotomi responds that she understands Kuda feels uncomfortable at home, but she asks him, for the sake of their parents, to try staying at home as much as possible. From Kotomi's perspective, a new family can only truly be called a family when all its members spend time together. She adds a light-hearted promise of giving him 10 stepsister points if he makes the effort. After that, Kotomi excuses herself to go to sleep, since there is school the next day, and the two of them exchange good-night wishes. Later, in his room, Kuda still cannot fall asleep. He turns his attention to the film on his screen, watching it quietly as his thoughts continue to drift. The next day, Kuda is greeted by Kotomi, who is already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. His mother asks Kuda to sit down and mentions that Kotomi's cooking tastes especially good that morning. As he eats, Kuda feels as though he is having a well-balanced breakfast while spending the morning with what looks like a perfect family. In his own mind, however, he thinks that the scene would feel even more complete if someone like him, whom he considers a failure, were not part of it. Akihiro checks in on Kotomi and asks whether she is getting used to her new school. Kotomi says that she has mostly adjusted, but she is still unsure about which club she should join. She wants to be active in a club, yet she cannot decide which one suits her best. Their mother suggests that Kotomi take her time and think about it carefully. She adds that she believes Kotomi will be able to make the right choice on her own. Noticing Kuda's presence, she quickly clarifies that she does not intend to compare him with Kotomi. Kuda responds by saying that his mother is right, and that compared to someone like him, whom he views as useless, Kotomi will surely do well in any club she chooses. He tells Kotomi that there is no need for her to rush her decision. His mother reacts in a flustered way, sensing the tension in his words. Kuda then thanks them for the meal and decides to leave first. The rest of the family can only watch quietly as he goes. Kuda passes the day attending his classes and working his part-time job as usual. Later, he heads once again to the family restaurant called Flowers. There, he meets Kazumiya, who greets him with a smile. Despite that warm reception, Kuda still feels extremely nervous being around her. Kazumiya, on the other hand, notices that Kuda often chooses melon soda. Kuda confirms this habit and casually guesses that Kazumiya might prefer coffee. Kazumiya explains that she is actually drinking tea, since drinking coffee makes her feel as if she is at home, which is why she rarely chooses it. Kuda reacts in a rather indifferent manner, and Kazumiya points out that he seems not to care much about things in general. She says that she finds this unbothered side of him pleasant. After that, Kuda asks whether Kazumiya wants to share something that has been bothering her. Kazumiya then opens up and explains that she genuinely feels tired and irritated when people she does not like ask for her contact information. She goes on to describe that earlier that day, there is a selection process for class committee members, during which several girls are also involved. One of the more assertive students, named Sawada, repeatedly pressures her to exchange contact details. Because of this, Kazumiya asks Kuda for help, hoping that he can somehow tell Sawada to stop approaching her. Kuda reacts by saying that she must be joking, since he feels that there is a vast difference in status between himself and Sawada. In his mind, the only similarity he shares with Sawada is that they both have arms and legs that can move. Hearing this, Kazumiya laughs. They continue talking freely, letting the conversation flow until they reach a moment where both of them pause to take a breath. After a while, their food arrives at the table. Kazumiya notices that Kuda always says a polite greeting before eating and expresses gratitude for the meal. Kuda wonders whether that habit seems strange. Kazumiya responds that she thinks his behavior is actually good. Kuda feels slightly embarrassed and explains that this habit may come from being raised by a single mother, and that he does not want others to think he lacks proper manners. Kazumiya listens and understands his explanation without questioning it further. Suddenly, Kuda's mother calls him. Kuda asks Kazumiya for permission to answer the phone, and Kazumiya allows him to do so without hesitation. His mother asks where he is, and Kuda explains that he has just finished his part-time work and is on his way back. His mother suspects that he has stopped somewhere again. She then apologizes, saying that she thinks it must be difficult for Kuda to come home, especially because earlier that morning she sounds as if she is favoring Katomi. Because of that, she worries that Kuda might not want to return home anymore. Kuda tells his mother not to dwell on what happens that morning. He explains that today he is simply accompanying a female friend, which is why he plans to come home later than usual. His mother doubts him and assumes that he is lying about having a female friend, but Kuda insists that he is telling the truth. At that moment, Kazumiya offers her help, suggesting that if she speaks directly, Kuda's mother might believe him more easily. Kuda considers this and realizes that she may be right. Unable to think of another solution, he hands his phone to Kazumiya. Kazumiya introduces herself to Kuda's mother and explains that Kuda walks her home the previous day, and that she is asking for his help again today. After that, Kazumiya returns the phone to Kuda. His mother then asks since when Kuda has a female friend. Kuda replies that he can say it is something that happens fairly recently. His mother apologizes for doubting him. Once the call ends, Kuda thanks Kazumiya sincerely, feeling relieved by her support. Kuda thinks that Kazumiya must be worrying about him in her own way, even though he has not fully shared his family problems with her. Kazumiya responds that she is glad to hear his words. Late at night, Kuda and Kazumiya head home together. On the way home, Kuda mentions that he has already watched the film Kazumiya recommends. Kazumiya reacts with surprise, thinking that it happens much faster than expected, and she becomes curious about what Kuda thinks of it. Kuda explains that the film turns out to be very exciting. Kazumiya shares his enthusiasm and agrees with that impression. Kuda goes on to reflect on the film, thinking that the action scenes are impressive and that the story resembles a shounen manga that keeps the heart racing. He recalls how the tension rises after the white cat, Torai, is captured by an organization, how the black cat, Toref, becomes an executive on the opposing side, and how events escalate when the black cat is attacked, forcing Toref to make an important decision. Among all of these moments, Kuda finds the scene where Toref rises again to be especially memorable. Kazumiya feels the same way, as that moment is also her favorite part of the film. Realizing that they share the same highlight makes Kuda feel shy. Kuda continues by noting that the item used to repel the enemies is actually foreshadowed from the very beginning of the movie. When he notices this connection, he reacts strongly, even though it is already late at night. Kazumiya relates to that feeling and agrees that this realization makes the experience even more thrilling. Through this exchange, Kazumiya realizes that discussing films like this is surprisingly enjoyable. Until now, she does not really have anyone to talk to about such topics. Kuda feels the same way and thinks that if Kazumiya wants, he can always be someone she talks to about films or similar interests. Kazumiya appreciates that thought. As they continue walking, Kuda remembers something related to movies. He recalls that he receives advance tickets from his friend. Although he does not talk much to Natsuki about his personal matters, he knows that Natsuki is particularly perceptive when it comes to things like this. Earlier, Natsuki gives him 2 tickets and suggests that Kuda go with a new friend. The tickets are for a basketball movie that has been talked about a lot recently. The idea naturally leads to Kuda thinking that Kazumiya would probably enjoy watching it. Kazumiya understands the intention and accepts the invitation with gratitude. At the same time, Kuda imagines that once he gets home, his mother will likely ask him many questions about Kazumiya. When he checks his part-time work schedule, he realizes that he does not have a shift on Thursday. Kazumiya takes note of that day as well. Kuda thinks that being questioned by his mother would still be better than staying in an atmosphere that feels suffocating. With that in mind, he starts looking forward to Thursday, and Kazumiya feels the same anticipation. After that, Kazumiya asks Kuda for recommendations. Kuda initially wonders whether she means movie recommendations, but Kazumiya clarifies that it does not have to be limited to films. She becomes curious about Kuda's hobbies. Kuda explains that he enjoys playing games. Hearing this, Kazumiya asks him to recommend a game that she might like, saying that she plans to buy it later. Kuda thinks carefully and suggests a game that he believes suits her taste. Kazumiya accepts the recommendation without hesitation. Through this exchange, Kuda realizes that sharing personal interests with someone else can be genuinely fun. Meanwhile, back at school, other students begin to notice that Kazumiya's face looks pale. They quietly observe her condition and start to wonder whether she is feeling all right. During breakfast, Kuda's mother asks him enthusiastically about the kind of relationship he has with Kazumiya. She urges him to talk about it more openly. Kuda explains that he and Kazumiya are simply ordinary friends, but he also mentions that in the next few days they are planning to watch a movie together at the cinema. Kotomi reacts by teasing him lightly. At the same time, Akihiro offers to give Kuda some money in case he needs it, but Kuda declines, feeling that it would only cause trouble. The dining table, which Kuda usually does not feel comfortable at, suddenly feels warm and relaxed. He realizes that thanks to Kazumiya's help the other day, he is now able to feel this sense of comfort while being at home. Akihiro then tells Kotomi not to hold back, saying that he also allows her to spend time with her own friends. Kotomi responds that she is fine as she is, because she prefers spending time with her family. Kuda reflects that this is simply Kotomi's nature, someone who genuinely wants to be with her family. Kotomi then comments that Kuda's friend turns out to be Kazumiya. She mentions that Kazumiya has become the center of attention among first-year students, largely because many rumors are circulating about her. Hearing this, Kuda realizes that most people do not truly know Kazumiya and instead assume she has done improper or reckless things. He thinks that if his parents were to hear those rumors, he might no longer be allowed to meet Kazumiya. Just as Kuda feels the urge to stop Kotomi from talking further about the rumors, Kotomi continues by saying that the stories she hears describe Kazumiya as a very beautiful senior, almost like a celebrity, which makes her want to meet her someday. After sharing that impression, Kotomi urges Kuda to finish his breakfast quickly. Kuda agrees, responding awkwardly. Once the meal is over, Kuda thanks Kotomi. He admits that he initially thinks she might believe the negative rumors about Kazumiya, but he is relieved that she does not speak badly about her. Kotomi asks whether those rumors are actually true. Kuda answers that they are nothing more than baseless gossip. Kotomi responds positively, saying that it is good to hear that. Kotomi then explains her own feelings. She says that she prefers a dining table filled with laughter like earlier, because that is what she considers a normal family. As long as that atmosphere does not change, she has no problem with Kuda being friends with anyone. Hearing this, Kuda finds himself at a loss for words. Kotomi adds jokingly that this is the open-minded response of a younger sister toward her older brother's friendship, and she declares that she deserves 20 stepsister points for it. The following day, classes begin as usual. While sitting in class, Kuda recalls how anxious he feels the day before, worrying that he might not be able to spend time with Kazumiya anymore. He now feels relieved and fortunate that everything turns out fine. However, he does not expect the rumors to have spread among the first-year students so quickly, even though it is clear to him that all of them are nothing but slander. Suddenly, a female student informs the teacher that Kazumiya is absent and is currently resting in the infirmary. This news immediately catches Kuda's attention. He begins to wonder whether Kazumiya is all right. Around him, other students also start whispering among themselves, questioning her condition and recalling how pale she looks recently. Meanwhile, Kuda approaches and takes a closer look at Kazumiya. From his perspective, her body appears unusually weak, lacking its usual energy. He notices the dark circles under her eyes, which makes it clear to him that she has not slept properly. This sight causes unease to surface in his thoughts. Gradually, he begins to wonder whether the rumors circulating about Kazumiya might contain some truth. Those rumors claim that she associates with delinquent people and engages in inappropriate behavior. As these doubts start to form in Kuda's mind, Kazumiya suddenly wakes up in a lively manner, immediately absorbed in her own excitement. Her condition sharply contrasts with the negative assumptions forming in his head. She appears deeply immersed in the manga she has been reading, clearly enjoying it without restraint. This unexpected reaction causes Kuda to freeze, momentarily unable to respond. Kazumiya continues expressing her thoughts without hesitation, treating her enthusiasm as something completely natural. She regards the popularity of the manga as well-deserved, explaining through her actions that once she began reading, she could not stop herself. Her interest extended beyond the pages, leading her to revisit the anime adaptation repeatedly. She becomes emotionally invested, especially in a particular scene involving Yatsui expressing a desire to play basketball, which deeply affects her and moves her to tears. As Kazumiya keeps talking at length, Kuda intervenes internally and begins connecting the situation to what happened earlier in the day. He realizes that her stay in the infirmary is not due to illness or misconduct, but rather the result of staying awake far too late. Kazumiya confirms this through her behavior and attitude, showing no intention of hiding it, while also conveying that she has learned her lesson. Kuda takes a moment to quietly process everything unfolding in front of him. The contrast between the rumors and the reality he is witnessing creates confusion within him. His hesitation becomes noticeable, which in turn makes Kazumiya react with mild curiosity. After collecting his thoughts, Kuda relaxes and acknowledges, through his expression, that Kazumiya's behavior is simply part of who she is. Kazumiya's reasoning remains consistent, as she treats her actions as a result of genuine enjoyment rather than recklessness. She continues recounting her interests until her energy gradually fades. Her speech slows, and her alertness diminishes as drowsiness overtakes her. Observing this change, Kuda becomes concerned and thinks about their next steps. He considers the importance of her resting properly and the potential danger of her becoming exhausted while traveling later. Kazumiya shows reluctance to part ways, valuing the time spent together and wanting the conversation to continue. In response, Kuda suggests a compromise by encouraging her to rest briefly before leaving. He recalls their plan to go to the movie theater the following day and places importance on both of them being in good condition to enjoy it fully. His concern is focused on ensuring that Kazumiya does not overexert herself and end up feeling tired during their outing. Kazumiya accepts this reasoning and soon falls asleep at the table inside the family restaurant. While watching her sleep, Kuda reflects on his earlier suspicions and feels embarrassed by his own thoughts. He recognizes how foolish it was to doubt her character, especially after seeing how innocent and straightforward she truly is. Her sleeping face appears calm and gentle, leaving a quiet impression on him. As time passes, Kuda finds himself increasingly looking forward to the next day. The anticipation grows naturally within him, without any clear reason beyond the simple desire to spend time together. The following day, Kuda and Kazumiya meet in front of the station as planned. Kazumiya arrives slightly later than expected and shows signs of regret for causing any delay. After meeting up, they wait together for the train to arrive. Once inside the train, the crowded conditions become apparent. The space is tight, forcing passengers to stand close to one another. Due to the pressure of the crowd, Kuda and Kazumiya end up standing very near each other. Kazumiya notices Kuda's height at close range and becomes aware that he is taller than she previously assumed. This realization briefly lingers between them. Suddenly, someone moves through the narrow space, causing Kazumiya to lose her balance. Her body is pushed forward, and she collides with Kuda. Acting on instinct, Kuda wraps his arms around her to prevent her from falling. The movement is quick and unplanned, driven purely by reflex. Realizing the situation, Kuda releases her and feels apologetic for the unexpected contact. Kazumiya remains still for a moment, her gaze fixed on him as she processes what just happened. Afterward, she leans in again, expressing her gratitude through her actions and acknowledging that he protected her from harm. At that moment, Kuda begins to question his own feelings. He wonders whether their plan truly ends with simply watching a movie together. Without realizing it, he senses that the distance between himself and Kazumiya is gradually shrinking, step by step, in a way he cannot yet fully define. At the family restaurant called Flowers, Kazumiya expresses her satisfaction with the movie she has just watched. She feels that the film is genuinely good and exciting, and that the effort she put into watching the previous works related to it has finally paid off. As she reflects on the experience, she explains that many scenes become clearer and more meaningful because of her familiarity with earlier installments. This shared understanding allows the discussion to deepen naturally. Kuda responds with equal enthusiasm, especially regarding the moment when the main character scores at the very last seconds of the game. Their conversation continues effortlessly, with both of them exchanging impressions and reactions while laughing together. Kazumiya has already expected that their opinions would align, and this mutual agreement gives her a quiet sense of reassurance. After some time passes, their food arrives at the table. Kazumiya tastes her hamburger and immediately finds it delicious. In that moment, she feels a simple form of happiness, one that comes from enjoying good food while talking openly about shared hobbies. She reflects on her childhood and mentions that experiences like this were completely forbidden back then. Kuda realizes that her childhood must have been a difficult one. Kazumiya continues by explaining that she used to be raised under strict supervision, making casual meals at places like family restaurants an impossible luxury. Eating freely in such a place used to be nothing more than a distant dream. However, in her current situation, she feels unrestrained. She believes that she is no longer someone who is expected or closely watched, which allows her to do whatever she wants. At the same time, Kazumiya feels that her mother no longer pays attention to her. She suspects that her own behavior may have contributed to this emotional distance, leading her mother to stop looking at her altogether. Because of this, when Kazumiya previously interacted with Kura's mother, she felt a strong sense of envy. She notices how deeply Kura is cared for and worries that such concern is something she herself would never receive from her own mother. After sharing these thoughts, Kazumiya becomes aware that she may have spoken too much about herself and feels apologetic for doing so. Kura understands her feelings and responds calmly. He explains through his attitude that their role is simply to listen to one another's concerns without interfering or imposing solutions. Because of this mutual understanding, he reassures her that she does not need to feel anxious or guilty. Kazumiya is surprised by this response and feels relieved, which leads her to feel grateful toward Kura. She then reflects on how strange it feels to talk so openly about her family. She realizes that this may be because it is the first time she has done so, and also because she usually keeps everything bottled up inside. She suspects that this habit may be one of the reasons why unpleasant rumors about her have spread, causing others to distance themselves from her. Kura becomes aware that these rumors are not limited to a single grade, but have even reached the first-year students. Kazumiya notices that Kura is already aware of this fact, and she wonders why he does not assume that she fits the image described by those rumors. Kura does not respond immediately. Kazumiya accepts the silence and considers the possibility that their alliance may be more trouble than it is worth for him. She suggests, through her actions and demeanor, that dissolving it might be better if it makes Kura more comfortable. As long as his situation improves, she believes she would be fine with that outcome. Unexpectedly, Kura reaches over and takes Kazumiya's hamburger, eating it without hesitation. He reacts naturally, indicating that it tastes good. Kazumiya is startled by this action and reacts with confusion, recognizing that the food belongs to her. Kura then realizes what he has done and apologizes, but immediately follows this by expressing his firm belief that it is impossible for Kazumiya to be the kind of person described in the rumors. From Kura's perspective, someone who reacts so strongly to having their hamburger taken cannot possibly be a delinquent engaging in improper behavior. He becomes irritated by how easily people accept baseless rumors without question. This irritation turns into visible frustration. Kazumiya is confused by Kura's sudden anger and does not immediately understand its cause. Kura makes it clear through his expression and actions that his anger comes from seeing someone he considers a friend being unfairly slandered. Upon realizing this, Kazumiya feels embarrassed and flustered. Kura then reacts to her response in a way that startles her, drawing her attention back to him. Kazumiya becomes aware that being called a friend directly, and having someone become angry on her behalf, makes her feel both shy and genuinely happy. Kura, in turn, is surprised by her reaction and wishes internally that she would stop catching him off guard with such an innocent expression. Kazumiya then seeks confirmation about the nature of their relationship, questioning whether they are truly friends rather than mere allies. Kura answers without hesitation, affirming that they are friends. Realizing that Kazumiya is likely still in the mood to talk, and feeling responsible for having eaten her hamburger, Kura decides to treat her by ordering a parfait. Kazumiya is visibly pleased by this gesture. They continue talking at length, sharing thoughts and feelings, until Kazumiya finally feels satisfied and at ease with their conversation. Kazumiya expresses her desire to go out with Kura again and suggests that they try playing at a baseball batting center together. Kura considers the idea appealing and thinks that it does sound fun. However, he quickly remembers that their exams are approaching, which means they should not spend too much time playing around. He feels a sense of pressure related to his younger sibling, believing that Katomi is naturally smart, and if his own grades were to drop, he would feel even more uncomfortable being at home than he already does. In response, Kazumiya offers an alternative. If playing is not possible, she suggests that they could study together instead. Kura agrees with this idea and proposes that they study seriously, while using break times to talk and relax a little, making the time productive while still enjoyable. Kazumiya accepts this plan without hesitation. Meanwhile, Kuda reminds himself internally that he has no intention of doing anything improper or reckless. During the conversation, Kazumiya realizes for the first time that Kuda has a younger sibling. Kuda explains that his sister's name is Tsujikawa Katomi. Upon hearing the name, Kazumiya immediately recalls that Katomi is the new student representative who delivered a speech during the entrance ceremony. She remembers her clearly and praises her as someone who is both beautiful and intelligent. For Kazumiya, having a younger sibling like Katomi would naturally create a sense of discomfort and pressure. Kazumiya then wonders whether Kuda has ever tried to compete with his younger sister or avoid falling behind her. Kuda reflects on his past self and acknowledges that the version of himself from before might have done something like that. When Kazumiya asks about how he is now, Kuda turns the question around in his own way, wondering whether he looks like someone who would still act like that. Kazumiya observes him carefully and concludes that he does not seem like that kind of person anymore. Kazumiya then shares her own experience. She recalls that she once tried hard to become like her older sibling, but eventually chose to run away from that path. For her, running away is not necessarily a wrong choice. Kuda listens to this and reflects that not everything they do turns out to be bad, because there is proof that something good has come from it. When Kazumiya wonders what that good thing might be, Kuda explains that even though he has distanced himself emotionally from his family, that very choice has allowed him to become friends with Kazumiya. Hearing this, Kazumiya becomes visibly flustered, her face turning red, and she feels that she shares the same feeling. She explains that although she used to feel guilty about her decisions, she now feels happy that she chose things for herself. She finds it strange that she can feel happy after running away from her family, yet that is exactly how she feels. Kudo agrees with her sentiment, acknowledging that such contradictions can exist. At that point, they both notice that the time has already reached 10 o'clock at night, meaning it is time for them to go home. They begin walking back together, and as usual, Kuda escorts Kazumiya to her apartment. Kazumiya feels grateful for this and expresses her appreciation through her actions. From Kuda's perspective, even though it is already late, he feels that he has said something rather embarrassing earlier. He also worries that he might have involved himself too deeply in Kazumiya's personal matters. Meanwhile, Kazumiya lets him know that she is looking forward to the time when they will study together. Hearing this, Kuda feels relieved and thankful that Kazumiya does not dislike him. Kuda then encourages Kazumiya in his own quiet way, expressing the idea that they should face things together. After that, he prepares to leave and head home. However, just as Kuda is about to walk away, a woman's voice suddenly calls out, asking Kazumiya where she has been and why she is returning so late at night. The woman turns out to be Kazumiya's mother. Kazumiya is caught completely off guard by her presence, while her mother's sharp and piercing gaze fixes firmly on the scene before her. Kazumiya is taken aback when her mother suddenly appears and reprimands her harshly for staying out late into the night. From a very young age, Kazumiya has always been afraid of her mother's gaze, a look filled with exhaustion and irritation directed toward her. No matter what Kazumiya does, she always ends up in second place. No matter how hard she tries or how much effort she puts in, her older sibling always stands above her. Throughout her life, she has repeatedly been compared unfavorably. Her mother constantly emphasizes that Kazumiya is always second, clearly different from her older sibling. Each time this happens, Kazumiya lowers herself, apologizes, and promises that she will work harder next time. However, her mother continues to scold her and eventually declares that she no longer places any expectations on Kazumiya at all. These words have weighed heavily on Kazumiya since childhood. Her heart quietly shatters every time she hears them. Deep down, she has already realized that her mother has never truly cared about her. The only person her mother truly values is her older sibling, and Kazumiya has long understood this painful truth. At that moment, Kuda steps forward and introduces himself to Kazumiya's mother, taking responsibility by explaining that he is the one who kept Kazumiya out so late. He apologizes sincerely for making Kazumiya lose track of time. However, Kazumiya's mother dismisses his explanation and tells him not to defend Kazumiya. She insists that Kazumiya must be the one preventing Kuda from going home. She then tells Kazumiya not to cause trouble for others, stating coldly that she does not have the time or energy to deal with her. Kazumiya's displeasure becomes clearly visible on her face. Her mother points this out immediately, criticizing her expression and ordering her to stop making such a face because it is embarrassing. After that, Kazumiya follows her mother into the apartment in silence. From behind, Kuda calls out to her. Kuda understands Kazumiya's feelings almost instinctively. He feels that they are alike in this way, which is why he can sense what she is experiencing without needing words. Meanwhile, Kazumiya thinks to herself that she does not want Kuda to witness this side of her life. Kuda eventually returns home, where his family greets him as usual. He feels surprised by this warm reception, especially since he arrives late at night. Normally, coming home this late fills him with guilt, but tonight, the atmosphere is different. His mother notices his silence and asks why he seems so quiet. Kuda reflects internally and realizes that he has just become aware of how fortunate he actually is. Kotomi notices Kuda's subdued expression and wonders why he looks so down. Akihiro then mentions that Kotomi has a suggestion and encourages Kuda to listen to her. Kotomi correctly guesses that Kuda has no part-time work scheduled for Friday, and Kuda confirms this. He realizes that he had completely forgotten about it because his thoughts have been occupied with Kazumiya. Kuda has one personal rule that he has always followed in his life. In order to maintain the shape of this family, he always sets aside Fridays to prioritize family and stay at home. Kotomi explains that the next day is a rare opportunity, since their mother has a day off and their father will return home early. Because of that, they will finally have time to spend together as a family. She suggests that they all spend Friday night together. Their mother adds that although Kuda is usually at home on Fridays, he tends to isolate himself in his room instead of spending time with everyone. Kuda agrees to join them properly this time. His mother looks forward to it with clear anticipation. Kuda looks at this new family that welcomes him warmly and truly acknowledges his presence. No matter how uncomfortable he sometimes feels, he believes that family must come first. His mother then suggests that he take a shower since it is already late, and Kuda complies. After that, Kuda remembers that he needs to inform Kazumiya. He sends her a message explaining that he has plans with his family the next day and will not be able to go to the Flowers family restaurant. Kazumiya acknowledges the message. When Kazumiya reads it, she finds herself unable to say anything. From Kuda's perspective, even though what happened occurred just the day before, Kazumiya acts as if nothing unusual has happened. She appears normal on the surface, but Kuda is certain that deep down, Kazumiya desperately wants to confide in someone. In the classroom, Kazumiya is approached by one of the female students and is once again invited to attend the class meeting scheduled for that day, since she had declined earlier. At that moment, Kuda suddenly remembers that Kazumiya once mentioned something about a class meeting. He realizes that he had completely forgotten about it until now. Kazumiya declines the invitation again, explaining that she already has a family engagement planned for the day. Kuda feels slightly surprised by this. Even though Kazumiya's mother appears cold and distant, she still seems to create moments that involve spending time together as a family. Because of that, Kuda thinks that perhaps there is no need for him to worry too much. He reminds himself that he is not the type of person who gets deeply involved in someone else's life, and he decides that there is no need for him to act like a hero. Kuda convinces himself that simply listening to Kazumiya's concerns again the next day will be enough. To him, that role alone should suffice. However, despite that thought, Kazumiya spends the entire day looking visibly gloomy and withdrawn. As night arrives, Kuda returns home. His mother and Akihiro welcome him as usual, and his mother reminds him to wash his hands and sit comfortably. Kotomi mentions that Kuda's timing is perfect because dinner is already prepared. The family then eats together. Kotomi also mentions that she baked a cake earlier and suggests eating it while watching a movie together. Their mother agrees, saying it is a good idea. Kuda looks at the scene before him and thinks that this is the kind of happy family that can exist anywhere. Even though he still feels somewhat uncomfortable at times, he believes he is fortunate to have an environment like this. At the same time, Kuda begins to wonder whether Kazumiya is able to spend her time comfortably with her own family at this very moment. From what he has seen, Kazumiya's mother looks at her with cold eyes and seems reluctant to engage with her at all. Kuda questions whether a family moment can truly be formed with a parent like that, and he worries that Kazumiya may once again wear that gloomy expression he has grown familiar with. Unable to stay seated, Kuda stands up and apologizes to Kotomi and the others, explaining that he needs to step out for a while. Kotomi, Akihiro, and Kuda's mother all look surprised by his sudden decision. Kuda understands that he should value this time with his family. However, he cannot ignore the thought that Kazumiya might be alone at the place she usually goes to. With that in mind, Kuda sends a message to Kazumiya, telling her that he is on his way. As he prepares to leave, Kuda thinks that Kazumiya is likely spending the night by herself. When Kuda arrives at the place, Kazumiya is clearly surprised because Kuda truly comes as he says he would. She feels confused, because this day is supposed to be time reserved for Kuda's family. Kuda explains through his actions that today he chooses to listen to Kazumiya's concerns instead. Kazumiya cannot help but question the reason behind his decision. Kuda finds it strange that Kazumiya even asks, because they have already made an agreement to spend time together sharing stories about school, personal matters, and family issues, while simply listening to each other without going further than that. Kazumiya becomes momentarily stunned, leaving a brief silence between them, which makes Kuda urge her to say something. Kazumiya admits that she never expects to meet Kuda on this day. She feels confused, overwhelmed, and unsure of what she is feeling at that moment. Kuda reflects that although he plans to come here today, when he remembers what happens the previous night, it feels as if his body moves on its own without him thinking too deeply about it. Kuda asks for permission to place an order first, but Kazumiya tells him that it is unnecessary. She explains that even though she never expects Kuda to come, out of habit she already orders 2 portions. Kuda feels relieved that he comes after all. Kazumiya adds that even if Kuda does not show up, she plans to finish the orders by herself. Kuda notices that the drinks are refillable, so he feels there is no problem no matter how much they take. Kazumiya only realizes this detail at that moment. Kazumiya admits that she feels sad after what happens the previous day, especially after being confronted by her mother, but she feels better now. She expresses her gratitude toward Kuda. Kuda feels happy when he sees Kazumiya smiling, and he believes that her expression might be the result of their meeting the day before. Kazumiya then invites Kuda to get drinks together. Meanwhile, Kuda honestly feels conflicted inside. He wonders whether Kazumiya's mother has always been that cold toward her. Kazumiya decides to take melon soda for a change. Kuda realizes that when it comes to Kazumiya, he tends to step in more than he ever does for other people. Kazumiya mentions that today can be considered a study session meant only for the 2 of them. With that reasoning, they can say that they rushed to meet after forgetting about it, which conveniently explains the sudden cancellation of other plans. They then mark the moment together and continue spending time in quiet conversation. After talking for a while, the night grows late. Eventually, they head home and part ways. As Kuda turns his back, Kazumiya feels a wave of sadness rising inside her. Kuda himself feels awkward knowing that he skips the family plan for today, and he expects an uncomfortable atmosphere when he returns home. Even so, he does not regret his decision. He thinks that he might be getting involved with Kazumiya too deeply once again, but seeing her smile earlier makes everything feel worthwhile. More than anything, Kuda never wants to see that gloomy look on Kazumiya's face again. Meanwhile, Kazumiya enters her room and begins questioning why Kuda comes all the way to see her. She feels frustrated after realizing that Kuda chooses a friend over his family, something she never imagines before. What troubles her even more is noticing that Kuda is sweating, as if he rushes to get there. To Kazumiya, Kuda is not the type of person who interferes in other people's affairs. That realization makes her feel hopeless and foolish at the same time. Kazumiya feels so happy that she does not know what to do anymore. She becomes unsure of how she should face Kuda the next time they meet. She never expects that something outside her family could disturb her emotions this deeply, and in her thoughts, she ends up calling Kuda an idiot. After that day, they continue spending time together after school as usual, and their peaceful days go on. Natsuki suddenly remembers that the deadline to choose the new student council is approaching, and he nearly forgets about it. Kuda thinks that everyone already knows who will win, but Natsuki believes that unexpected surprises are still possible. Right in front of them, the leading candidate for the next student council president appears. Her name is Raimon Shirori. As Kuda observes the situation, he feels that changes are slowly beginning to take shape. At the same time, Natsuki realizes that Raimon Shirori has just noticed both him and Kuda. With a decisive and overwhelming result, the new student council president of their school is chosen, and the position goes to Raimon Shirori. Kuda thinks that this outcome is reasonable and easy to accept. Since Raimon Shirori ranks first in their grade, and earns the trust of both teachers and fellow students through her proven ability. Her appointment as student council president is something that anyone could have predicted long before the results are announced. Natsuki reacts by feeling that the election turns out to be rather dull precisely because it ends exactly as expected. Kuda wonders whether Natsuki feels dissatisfied with the result. Natsuki does not feel particularly unhappy, but he notices that Kuda has recently gained new companions, and because of that, he senses that the atmosphere around them is slowly changing. That change makes him think that the student council election might bring at least a small disturbance or surprise. Natsuki also observes that Kazumiya has begun to appear slightly softer than before. Kuda questions whether that observation is accurate, since he has not noticed it himself. Natsuki explains that Kazumiya has started to show faint smiles, even if they appear only rarely, and that is something he could never have imagined from the Kazumiya he knew in the past. To Natsuki, this change feels like the beginning of disorder rather than something comforting. Kuda responds internally by hoping that Natsuki does not turn such changes into ominous signs. Some time passes after the family restaurant alliance is formed, and the days Kuda spends together with Kazumiya gradually increase. On this particular day, they meet again to study together as preparation for the upcoming final exams. Kuda checks whether Kazumiya is doing well with her studies, and Kazumiya soon becomes aware of Kuda's presence. They begin studying side by side, focusing on their work. During the session, Kazumiya notices an error in one of Kuda's formula calculations and calmly corrects it. She then suggests a simpler and more efficient approach, and Kuda follows her guidance without hesitation. Afterward, Kazumiya confirms that Kuda's revised method is correct and expresses confidence in his ability to solve the remaining problems on his own. This reaction brings Kuda a quiet sense of happiness. Kuda realizes that Kazumiya is skilled not only at studying, but also at teaching others. Kazumiya explains that she has also learned through guidance from someone else. This information surprises Kuda, as he had not considered the possibility that Kazumiya has close companions. Kazumiya makes it clear that having friends is entirely natural for her. She reveals that Raimon Shirori is one of her friends, and that their friendship has continued since their middle school years. Kuda does not expect such a connection between Kazumiya and Raimon Shirori. Kazumiya urges Kuda not to entertain disrespectful or unnecessary assumptions. Kuda reflects that Kazumiya's academic ability cannot be explained by this alone, as he believes she must have put in significant effort on her own. Kazumiya explains that she frequently studies before leaving for school, a habit that originally develops from a desire not to lose to her older sibling. Although that motivation once feels pointless to her, she remains grateful that the habit continues until now, allowing her to help Kuda with his studies. Kuda reacts by feeling slightly flustered and asks her not to tease him. Kuda also acknowledges inwardly that Kazumiya is remarkable, since the last time he studied with such intensity is during his middle school entrance exams. At that time, his father firmly believes that ability is everything, and Kuda struggles desperately to meet those expectations. He studies relentlessly and eventually succeeds in entering the middle school his father wants for him. However, even that achievement holds no value in his father's eyes. His father repeatedly questions how long Kuda will continue to disappoint him, insisting that passing alone means nothing unless Kuda reaches the very top rank. Remembering this, Kuda's heart feels deeply wounded by the weight of those words. After finishing his story, he expresses his gratitude to Kazumiya for being willing to listen to what he considers a dull and unimportant confession. In response, Kazumiya asks Kuda to extend his hand. Kuda follows her request, unsure of what she intends to do. Kazumiya then draws a small flower on the palm of his hand and conveys that Kuda has worked hard, treating the simple drawing as a reward for his effort and perseverance. For Kuda, this gesture carries deep meaning. It reflects the very words he has long hoped to hear, words that acknowledge and recognize his hard work. Overcome by emotion, Kuda begins to cry, which leaves Kazumiya momentarily puzzled. Kuda reacts by thinking that Kazumiya is being noisy, and he notices that she looks unexpectedly pleased by his reaction. Kazumiya feels happy because, until now, she believes she has always been the one receiving support and kindness from Kuda. Kuda reflects that this moment alone already feels more than enough for him. Kazumiya then reminds him that there is no time to cry and that he needs to return to studying. Kuda senses how strict she can be, and Kazumiya reinforces the idea that if he does not fight seriously during the exams, he will not be able to enjoy himself afterward without worry. Because of Kazumiya's influence, Kuta becomes more committed to studying. His thoughts grow calmer than usual, and he is able to face the exams steadily and without panic. Eventually, the exams come to an end without any major problems. With the final test completed, summer vacation begins the following day. As they had promised each other earlier, Kuta and Kazumiya go together to a batting center. Kuta immediately notices how happy Kazumiya looks upon arriving. He also observes that the facility offers many different options and setups. Kazumiya shows eagerness to start first, and Kuta allows her to go ahead. With the pressure of exams finally gone, Kazumiya throws herself into batting with unrestrained energy. She begins her turn, and her first swing results in a clean strike, followed by several more successful hits. Kazumiya feels confident in her form and technique, convinced that she is hitting the ball properly. Kuta watches closely and recognizes how impressive her performance is. Soon, it becomes Kuta's turn. Kazumiya supports him enthusiastically from the side. As Kuta steps up, he recalls something his father once taught him long ago: lessons about shifting body weight, keeping a level swing, and maintaining focus on the primary objective. Drawing from that memory, Kuta begins to swing the bat. His movements momentarily leave Kazumiya astonished. Kuta himself starts to remember the techniques more clearly, even though he does not feel comfortable acknowledging that his father is the one who taught them to him. He becomes determined to aim for a home run. Kazumiya senses that something new has been awakened within Kuta during this moment. However, despite his determination, Kuta ultimately fails to make contact with a single pitch. Exhausted and discouraged, he sinks down, his body heavy with disappointment. Kazumiya returns while carrying a cold drink and gently presses it against Kuta's cheek. The sudden chill startles him, but she praises his effort, and Kuta responds with gratitude. Kazumiya reflects that moments like this feel genuinely enjoyable. She explains that her family does not allow her to join school clubs or take part-time jobs, which leaves her with a great deal of free time after school. Kuta is surprised to learn that Kazumiya is forbidden from working part-time. Kazumiya explains that if she were to make a mistake and cause trouble that affected her older sibling, it would become a serious issue. Even though she complains about it, the money she uses to spend time with Kuta still comes from her mother's allowance, and that fact disappoints her more than she wants to admit. Kuta considers the situation unfair and thinks that if Kazumiya dislikes it, he could pay for everything himself, but Kazumiya rejects the idea, feeling that it would only make things worse. Kuta reflects that all of these decisions are made one-sidedly and that Kazumiya is prevented from working, which places her in a difficult position. Kazumiya explains that her mother has already given up on her. From the beginning, her mother never expects anything from her and only wants her to live quietly without causing trouble for her older sibling. In her mother's eyes, Kazumiya is merely a child who cannot accomplish anything. Kuta strongly feels that this assessment is completely wrong. At this point in time, Kazumiya has already saved him emotionally, even if she does not realize it herself. He senses that Kazumiya does not truly get along with her family, something he has been thinking about ever since. While he has received so much support from Kazumiya, he begins to question what he himself can do for her in return. Kazumiya casually comments on how difficult hitting a home run truly is, admitting that she thought she would dominate easily from the start. As Kuta watches her cheerful behavior, he becomes increasingly aware that despite her bright demeanor, her relationship with her parents is strained. He also realizes that the cruel and unfounded rumors surrounding her are burdens she carries alone without confiding in anyone. Kuta continues to wonder whether there is anything meaningful he can do for her. With final exams finished and summer vacation beginning the next day, Kuta brings up the idea of going somewhere together. Kazumiya is visibly surprised by the invitation and mentions that she wants to go to a swimming pool. When asked further, she adds that she would also like to visit a summer festival or an amusement park. Kuta treats her suggestions seriously and records each one carefully. Seeing this, Kazumiya smiles and begins to feel genuinely excited about the approaching summer vacation, sensing that it may become the busiest summer she has ever experienced. Kuta reflects that this year will indeed be busy and believes that things will continue this way from now on. Kazumiya notices the expression on his face and finds it puzzling. Soon after, Kuta steps back into the batting area. As he swings the baseball bat, he comes to a personal decision. Until now, He and Kazumiya have respected each other's personal space and never interfered unnecessarily, and that balance defines their relationship. However, he resolves that if Kazumiya ever needs help, he will be there for her no matter what. Kazumiya is left stunned by this realization. As Kuda continues swinging the bat, he accepts that he does not yet know what he is capable of doing. Still, even if the entire world were to speak badly about Kazumiya, he decides that he will always stand on her side. At that moment, Kuda successfully hits the baseball. Kazumiya feels overwhelming joy and expresses her gratitude to him, even if it comes across as excessive. Kuda reflects that he may still be nothing more than a child who cannot yet be relied upon. Even so, he knows one thing for certain. He never wants to see Kazumiya sad again. With that thought, he makes a quiet decision to become someone who can serve as a source of strength for her. On the way home, Kazumiya mentions that the family restaurant they usually visit is holding a stamp collecting event across its branches to celebrate its anniversary. She invites Kuda to participate and explains that they need 5 stamps in order to receive a prize. As she considers it, she wonders whether they will be able to collect all of them and whether it will require traveling around late into the night. Kuda finds the idea appealing and thinks that it would serve as a convenient excuse to spend more time away from home. Kazumiya then suggests that they make their summer vacation a fun one together. Hearing this, Kuda briefly remembers that Natsuki had been hoping for some kind of drama to occur, yet Kuda himself wishes that this calm stretch of days could continue forever. He responds by encouraging Kazumiya to turn their summer vacation into something truly memorable. After that, they part ways. As Kuda walks home, he feels that with everything being so peaceful, there is no reason to expect anything dramatic to happen. When he arrives at his house, his mother greets him as usual and tells him to go take a bath and relax. While preparing to do so, Kuda notices that rain has begun to fall outside. He reflects that he had been looking forward to the stamp collecting event with Kazumiya the next day, and the sudden rain makes him feel unlucky. At that moment, he receives a message from Kazumiya saying that she is currently outside and asking for his help. Kuda is immediately taken aback and rushes out of his room without hesitation. He cannot believe what is happening, since they had only just parted moments earlier while smiling at each other. As he processes the situation, Kuda realizes that Natsuki's prediction about drama is coming true after all. His hope for endlessly peaceful days collapses, and he is forced to admit that Natsuki may have been right. Once outside, Kazumiya apologizes to him, revealing that she has just run away from home. Kuda is left unsettled and begins to question what could have happened to Kazumiya in such a short span of time. Kazumiya arrives and apologizes to Kuda for running away from home. A few hours earlier, she hears her mother say that during the summer she must stay inside the house because her older sibling is going through an important period. Her mother believes that if Kazumiya keeps coming home late and something happens, her sibling will suffer the consequences. Kazumiya firmly refuses. Her mother accuses her of being selfish, and then decides to leave at that moment. Kazumiya asks her mother not to make unilateral decisions, explaining that she already has plans with her friends and does not want to be confined at home. Her mother responds by telling Kazumiya to leave the house if she refuses to obey. Shocked, Kazumiya prepares to go, while her mother remains convinced that she will eventually return on her own. During the journey, Kazumiya wonders how everything turns out this way, how moments of happiness can collapse in an instant. She runs through the rain and then stops, realizing how bad the situation feels as she senses she has no destination and no one she can trust. She remembers that Kuda once says he will help her with all his strength if she ever needs it. She hesitates, questioning whether she can ask for his help, but her desire to meet him grows stronger. She sends Kuda a message and shares her location. Not long after, Kuda arrives with an umbrella, clearly worried about her condition. Kazumiya feels relieved and happy that he comes. Seeing her soaked, Kuda invites her to go to his house. When they arrive, Kuda's mother greets them, curious about where he has rushed off to, and reacts in surprise when she sees him bring a girl home. As Kuda tries to introduce Kazumiya, his mother, still startled, tells Kazumiya to take a shower first. Kuda then guides her to the bathroom. Afterward, Kotomi appears and wonders why there is a guest so late at night. Kuda explains the situation, admitting that he himself does not fully understand what has happened. Kotomi smiles, having already assumed that Kuda and Kazumiya are very close. Kuda makes it clear that they are not dating. Kuda's eyes brighten as he reflects that running away together is something people would normally expect from him. He focuses instead on the thought that Kazumiya needs to warm herself as soon as possible. He wants to help her recover quickly from the emotional pain she carries. He remembers how cheerful she is throughout the day, only to turn visibly sad after meeting her mother, which leaves him deeply irritated by the way her mother treats her. Kotomi notices Kuda's expression and offers to take over if he wants to lift Kazumiya's spirits. Kuda wonders if Kotomi has an idea. Kotomi asks him to quickly fetch an item she needs, and Kuda complies. He hands the item to her, and she thanks him before telling him to wait in his room. Left alone, Kuda begins to wonder what is about to happen next. After a while, there is a knock on Kuda's bedroom door. Kuda allows whoever is outside to enter. Kazumiya opens the door and immediately apologizes to him. She explains that after finishing her bath, this is the only set of clothes available for her to wear. Kuda freezes for a moment when he sees her. Kazumiya then clarifies that she is wearing underwear underneath. Kuda apologizes, realizing that his younger sibling has placed his clothes in the bathroom. Deep down, Kuda finds the situation somewhat fortunate. Kazumiya explains that it is not that she dislikes it, but she asks Kuda to forget about it entirely. Kuda agrees without hesitation. He notices that, just as Kotomi mentioned earlier, Kazumiya looks a little more cheerful again. He does not know the exact reason, but the sight makes him genuinely happy. Kuda invites Kazumiya to sit on the bed for the time being. Kazumiya apologizes for suddenly dragging Kuda into all of this. She explains that she wants this to be the beginning of a fun summer vacation, but something unexpected happens instead. Kuda reassures her that she does not need to worry, because if she wants to talk, he is willing to listen without pressure or conditions. Kazumiya says that she wants Kuda to hear her, and Kuda feels grateful for that trust. Kazumiya then tells him everything in detail. She explains that her mother orders her to stay inside the house for the entire summer vacation, that she refuses, and that she impulsively runs away from home as a result. Kazumiya feels that she behaves like a child. Kuda questions that idea and reflects that he himself is still a child as well, and in that sense, leaning on each other like children does not seem wrong. Kazumiya comments that Kuda feels very calm. Kuda thinks that if he truly appears that way, it is thanks to Kazumiya. In the past, when Kuda feels like he has no place to belong and life itself drains his energy, he spends his time at the family restaurant with Kazumiya. Little by little, he finds a place where he can exist, and his heart gradually becomes lighter. Kuda feels thankful to Kazumiya, because thanks to her, he becomes calmer and is finally able to face things head-on instead of avoiding them. Kuda then wonders what Kazumiya plans to do next. Kazumiya admits that she does not know, but she does know that she does not want to return to that house. She also reflects that her thoughts remain childish, that part of her simply wants to disappear somewhere far away, even though she understands that she will eventually have to go back. Once again, she apologizes for dragging Kuda into this situation. Kazumiya decides that tomorrow she will thank Kuda's mother and return home, while feeling utterly pathetic about herself. Kuda then suggests that they run away together. Kazumiya is taken aback and initially assumes that he is joking. Kuda explains that he has actually set aside emergency money for situations like this. Even if Kazumiya chooses to think of it as a joke, he insists that he is being serious. His reason is simple. He wants to see Kazumiya smile and does not want to see her cry. He is sincere about this decision. Kazumiya questions why Kuda is willing to go this far for her. Kuda explains that it is because Kazumiya gives him full flower points and says the words he wants to hear the most. Kazumiya wonders what happens if she is actually in the wrong, or if she is lying to Kuda. Kuda decides that it does not matter to him. He chooses to stay by Kazumiya's side because, to him, Kazumiya saves him when he is at his lowest. Kazumiya asks if she is allowed to say one more thing. Kuda agrees, believing that now it is his turn to return the kindness Kazumiya gives him. Kazumiya then asks Kuda to run away together with her. Kuda accepts without hesitation and resolves that if that is what Kazumiya wants, he will run alongside her for as far as necessary. Kazumiya feels overwhelmingly happy and tightly holds Kuda's hand in gratitude. Kuda notices that Kazumiya is growing sleepy and suggests that she rest. He explains that they will leave on the first train the next morning, so she needs to regain her energy. Kazumiya agrees. Kuda gently brushes her hair, and Kazumiya feels that she hears Kuda's soft voice and senses the warmth of his kind touch. She wonders when the last time is that she sleeps this comfortably. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Kyuan arrives in an agitated state and demands to know what actually happens. Their mother urges Kyuan to calm down first. Kyuan presses her for an explanation, questioning why Kazumiya is driven out of the house and angrily insulting their mother. After that, Kyuan goes to Kazumiya's room and realizes that Kazumiya truly runs away, leaving behind even her favorite headphones. Kyuan becomes convinced that Kazumiya will soon return, believing that Kazumiya is incapable of overcoming her habit of running away. Kyuan believes that Kazumiya will only get hurt out there, and that is why Kyuan thinks it is necessary to keep Kazumiya safe by confining her. In Kyuan's eyes, Kazumiya is fragile, young, and ignorant of the world, someone Kyuan views as her small, delicate angel.